Welcome to Navigating Life After 40, the podcast that's all about helping women navigate this exciting and sometimes challenging phase of life. I'm your host, Ronnie J, and I'll be here sharing some of my own personal experiences, chatting with experts and a few friends, and also providing some practical advice and support to help you live your best life after 40. Let's get started. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Navigating Life After 40. I am your host, Ronnie J, and I hope, as always, that each of you who are listening are doing well. I also hope that you all have done something nice for yourselves over the last few days, or every day for that matter, right? Every day for that matter. And I say this because we're delving into a topic in this episode that resonates deeply with many of us. And that is self-care for us busy women. But before we hop into this topic, let's talk a little bit more about a new segment that I've added to the episode. And that is called the midlife moment. Let's hop into it and I'll tell you more about it. So the midlife moment is a special segment where we pause and take a minute to reflect on the unique experiences, challenges, and revelations that come with navigating life after 40. In each episode, or as many episodes as I can get this in, I'll share intimate and relatable stories, observations, or insights from my own life, or even yours if you choose to share that with me. This will be focused on unexpected discoveries to moments of clarity and growth. The midlife moment invites you, the listener, to join me in exploring the transformational journey of midlife. So the midlife moment that I'm going to focus on today is about grief. And recently, I've experienced a loss that really, it weighed heavy on me. It weighed heavy on me for a few weeks, and it comes and goes, of course. Also, over the last few weeks, especially, well, not the last few weeks, but the last few years, I would say between about 2000, 2002, 2003, I experienced a lot of just back-to-back loss, and it was just so much to deal with at that time. It was heavy, and I felt paralyzed at many of those times. Like, I really what do I do? How do I get through this? There were a lot of days when I would think, not only how do I get through this, but what am I supposed to do with all of this? It was just too much to carry. So with this recent loss, it brought up all of those feelings again. And then you pair that with the anniversary of losing a parent happening at the same time, and it feels overwhelmingly unbearable. However, I got through those moments with the help of prayer, leaning on friends, and honoring the memory of those who were lost. I also spent some time caring for myself by rescheduling meetings to protect my emotional and mental health and my energy. And I know as we age, it seems like loss is just inevitable. We lose those close to us and even those we may have known in another period of our life. And it can be a heavy load to carry, and it can really cause us to really think about life a lot more. Because this is something that we can't run from, if you are someone dealing with grief at this time. I encourage you to move through it however you need to in a healthy way. You can seek the support of a therapist. This is also something that I did. You can also find a support group. You can lean on your friends. You can also continue to honor those who are no longer here with us by doing things to keep their memory alive. Also, don't forget to honor yourself and your body by nourishing it with movement and with healthy eating, because you have to make sure that you are well taken care of yourself during this process. And that today is our midlife moment. If the midlife moment is something that resonated with you, please share your thoughts and your reflections with me. Or if you would like to share a personal midlife moment that you have and would like to have it read on one of the episodes, please send me an email, or you can shoot me a DM on social media at Navigating Life After 40 on any social media platform, or again, email me at navigatinglifeafter40, and that is the number 40, at gmail.com. Now, let's get back into this episode. So, this episode is for all women, but especially those who are busy and have very little time to practice self-care. I can relate. I've been there. I have been in many of your shoes who are listening who also struggle in this area. In the whirlwind of our daily responsibilities, career demands, family commitments, and personal aspirations, it's easy for self-care to slip to the bottom of our priority list. But here's the truth, right? We know that self-care isn't a luxury reserved for those with ample free time. It's a necessity for our overall well-being, especially as we continue this journey through the unique landscape of our 40s and 50s, 60s, and beyond. So in this episode, my goal with you today is to, really for both of us, to unpack this treasure box of self-care gems through practical and accessible practices that honor your body, your mind, and spirit in the midst of your busy schedule. So as we embark on this journey together, I invite you to approach these self-care tips with an open heart and a spirit of curiosity. And here's why: because you are worthy of love and the care that you so freely give to others. And that is something that we have to remember. So if you're tuning in during a morning commutes, or if you are currently in a stolen moment of solitude, or if you're listening as you are unwinding after a long day, I invite you to pour up a cup of your favorite beverage, settle into a cozy space, because there is nothing like a cozy space, and let's get through this together. Now that the foundation is laid, let's hop into it. I want to first start off talking about a survey that I had an opportunity to read. One of the things about me, for most of you who have been tuning in for some time, there are a lot of episodes where I'm going to share research. I am a research buff. I love research. A lot of my my work and thesis and dissertations have been in research. And so will all consist of research, I would say. So there was a survey that was completed, and I will also share the resource to this in the description of the episode so that you can also check it out. And the survey was completed by over 1,300 women. And it found that 70%, that's a huge number, spend less than 5 hours each week taking care of their own needs, self-care, or hobbies. Wow. And this equated to less than 1 hour per week. However, 11% of the women in the survey said they spend more than 10 hours each week on themselves. The women who spend less time on themselves reported that this is due to taking care of children and aging parents, which is leaving little to no time for self-care. Totally understandable, right? So if you fall into the 70%, please know that self-care doesn't have to be hard. I think sometimes when we think about self-care, we think about having to do these things that require us to spend money, or it takes a lot of time, and it doesn't. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be super easy. But I also understand that there's this tug of war between finding time for yourself and also prioritizing the needs of everyone else. Self-care can look like starting just with a few minutes per day. And as you get used to that, you can increase to more and more and more time to take care of yourself. So it doesn't have to be something that you spend an hour on starting off. It could be a few seconds. It could be 2 minutes, 5 minutes. It's really all based on how you manage your time. And let's hop into what this can look like. So I really wanted to focus on some of the most common things that we hear when it comes to self-care, which are our emotional and mental well-being, our physical well-being, our spiritual well-being. But there's also one other piece, one other bonus that I threw in here. And I'll get to that at the end. So stick around so that you can hear that bonus piece that we really don't focus on a lot. And I really do feel like it's very, very, very important for us to focus on this, because it helps with this piece that we're going to dive into first as well. It helps with part of this piece anyway, and that is our mental and emotional well-being. So as you begin to care for yourself and your mental and emotional state, it's important to, one, acknowledge your feelings and recognize that and acknowledge your emotions without judgment. It's okay to feel overwhelmed and stressed and exhausted, but this does not make you a bad person for feeling this way. And there are often times when we feel exhausted, and I can only imagine moms when you're really tired and exhausted, and your kids, they want your time, and you feel so guilty for feeling overwhelmed and stressed out and exhausted. But the key is, and this is the point, we can have these emotions, but it's what we do with these emotions that moves us to this next part, which is about setting emotional boundaries. There's that B word that a lot of people struggle with. A lot of people struggle with boundaries. And when we talk about setting emotional boundaries, we're talking about recognizing when you need to take that emotional space and communicate your needs assertively. Here's another word. We have to learn to say no. We got to learn how to say no. No is, when you start it, even if you say it now, just take a moment and just say no. How does that feel? No. No is a complete sentence, and it does not require an explanation. But oftentimes, many of us, we like to give an explanation because we feel guilty for saying no. And every time you give an explanation after saying no, that's that guilt coming up. It's okay to say no. It's okay to just say no. No. That is you setting an emotional boundary with yourself. And when we talk about setting no, because we know that there are often times, of course, some of you are probably saying, well, I can't say no to everything. And I understand that. But when I talk about saying no in the sense of self-care, I'm talking about saying no to additional commitments or responsibilities that exceed your capacity. Okay, I want you to think about that. And what I would like for you to do instead is to really prioritize tasks and obligations based on how important they are for you and your mental health, your mental ability, even to commit to these tasks or these obligations. Another part of emotional boundaries includes knowing when to walk away from people and situations that are no good for you. Ooh, ouch. Ouch, ouch. And I had to throw that in there because I think a lot of times we stay in situations way too long, or we're no longer tied to a situation, but we allow our emotions, our thoughts to stay there in that situation. And we have to know when to let it go, when to walk away, when to leave something alone, right? Because those people, those things, they drain our energy. And when things are draining your energy, or you just don't vibe well with somebody else, you have to walk away to protect your mental and emotional self. You have to do that. And that, I think for me, I'm going to I'm going to bang the gavel on that and say that pay attention to that. Pay attention to the energy drainers in your life. That can be people, that can be things, they can be situations. It could be social media, which we'll talk about. So, scheduling time for yourself, things you need to really stay away from. But pay attention to the things that drain your energy. It can be a job that can drain your energy. And that may be something that you have to make the decision to walk away from. Find something else, of course, if you are not set up financially to leave, but have a plan. How do I, counteract this thing that is draining me? We got to know when to walk away. So that's a challenge for all of us. When to walk away from situations, people, and things that drain our energy or that we just don't vibe well with. Another part of emotional and mental well-being and really taking care of ourselves in this area is knowing when to schedule me time. Ooh, this is a challenge that I know a lot of moms have, and that is scheduling me time. But this is one part of self-care that I really want you guys to hone in on. And I will say this, it's not just moms. I hear other women say this too, because they have all of these other obligations that may not include a husband or children or taking care of aging parents. They just say, I don't have time. But when we say we don't have time, we say we don't have time to prioritize ourselves. You should be your most important thing on your daily schedule. And the way that you make time for yourself is by carving out time just for you that includes no one else. And if you are taking care of children or aging parents, or you have these other obligations, this may look like waking up an extra 30 minutes to an hour early each day to have a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, read, prayer, meditation, or just moving your body. It could be waking up an extra 5 or 10 minutes early just so that you can have a moment to just breathe, to get yourself together mentally so that you can be in the best space for that day. I got a challenge coming for this one as well. So stay tuned to that at the end too. Another part of caring for our mental and emotional selves, and when I was really digging, I really took a look at what all encompasses this that can really help us to take some weight off of ourselves, off of us mentally and emotionally. And one of the things that I wanted to throw in here was delegating tasks. And I understand there are some times where, everyone doesn't have the money, and then everything does not have to do with money. But delegating tasks includes thinking about those things that you can hand off to others. This helps to decrease burnout and overwhelm. And one of the common things I hear women say is, and women, we are guilty of this and we have to do better, is if I want it done right, I have to do it myself. This is a mindset that we really, really have to let go of. We have to learn how to delegate tasks. We got to learn how to ask for help when we need it. There are so many resources and there's so much support out here, and we can use it if we can. Here's a question that you can kind of ponder on and even maybe jot down a few notes. Who in your circle or support system can you reach out to for help? It's a good question. And, or if you are running a business on the side while working and caring for family, what tasks can you delegate to a virtual assistant? Or maybe hire someone on Fiverr or another one of these platforms so that you can focus on money making activities. As many of you know, I still work a 9 to 5. And I delegate some of my tasks as it relates to my business to someone else to do. And it's time consuming. It's time consuming editing an episode. My episodes typically, as you guys know, are not edited, but the ones with my guests in certain episodes are. And so that's something that I delegate. Do I know how to do it? Absolutely. But I don't have the time. And I have to spend my time on focusing on the things that I can focus on that are going to make money for my business, that I can do to bring better content to you guys. I focus on, researching and talking to guests that I want to come on their show. And there's so much that goes on the back end. And so those things that I can just hand off to someone else, that's what I do. So I want you to think about that. What can I delegate? Even if you are a mom and your children are friends with other kids in the neighborhood and you trust those parents, it might be, taking turns picking up the kids from school each day. If you do pick your children up, or if they have different events, can you work something out with those other parents, to bring your children to and from the game or practice or whatever. You guys take turns if that's something that you would like to do. And I know how the world is now, but that's why I say if there's a trusted parent, a parent that you can really trust with your children. Another piece is building connection. If you're like me, and I'm sure a lot of you are, you really find peace at home and it feels good to be in your own space. And some of us, we hear, well, women, we just like to be alone. And that is true in a sense. However, God did not put us on this earth to be alone and move through this world alone, which is why it's important to build connections with others. Now, when I say build connections, I'm not saying let me just go out and meet all these people and let all of these people in my space. That's not what I'm saying. It doesn't mean allowing everyone into your space. It does mean connecting with those that you are equally yoked with. A lot of times when we hear the term equally yoked, we only think of marriages. We never think of connections, friends. We never think of those things, but we should. So connect with those that you are equally yoked with. Connect with people who can uplift you and support you and who you can reach out to for companionship and support when needed. It's all about finding those who will, Also, this just popped up. Also, find you some people who will reach out to you when things get quiet and say, hey girl, just checking in on you. Just wanted to see how things are going. Get you some friends like that. I know that since the pandemic, and probably even before, but I know especially since the pandemic, it's been a challenge to meet new people. A lot of the pandemic really did a number on people when it comes to getting out of the house and really building meaningful connections. And the pandemic, if you listen to my episode about making friends after 40 with the guest, I talked a little bit about how the pandemic also changed that for me. I used to be someone who would go out and just all the time, like if I wanted to. I created this really good balance between life and work. And when the pandemic hit and we were all in the house, which by the way, some people are going to be like, what? But I enjoyed being in the house. I enjoyed it. I'm one of the few people like I enjoyed it. I could go to the store, get in and out. It was easy to go outside and walk. It was like the air was fresher outside. It wasn't a lot of pollution going on. Like it was amazing for me. So, but that did a number on a lot of people. And we have to find a way to move from that space so that we can get back out here and build connections, build meaningful connections. During season 1, I remember how mentioning to you all that I moved to a new city and I joined a few groups on Facebook that helped me connect with other like-minded women. And it was really helpful. It was really helpful. I was able to, there are things on my bucket list that I have been able to do since meeting these women. It also has given me the opportunity to move beyond where I was during the pandemic. And I'll tell you another story about someone that I became really close friends with on social media. And this was prior to the pandemic, and I was part of one of the businesses that I had at the time. I focused on like career development, and I used to do LinkedIn. I used to, do LinkedIn audits and edit people LinkedIns and give advice and this, that, and the other on how to have a successful LinkedIn. Now, my LinkedIn now is a mess. So, it needs to be updated with everything. And I really do have to focus on that. But I remember completing one of those trainings and in a meeting with one of the individuals who purchased my audit, we ended up hitting it off, kicking it off, and we became really, really good friends. And it's now been almost 8 years. So it's not going to always be people that are in your city. It might be somebody else in another city. And this friend lives in another city. And we have a really, really good friendship. And I really appreciate her. So think about that. Get social. Social media is a powerful tool, and it can be beneficial when used appropriately. But we also know that there's the bad side. But for this case, I want to really focus on the positives of social media. And as we move forward in this other last piece of mental and emotional well-being, and there is so many pieces to this, but I just want to pull certain things out that I felt were important for this episode. But the other piece to this one was continuing to learn. Engaging in ongoing learning is so important because as we age, we begin to deal with cognitive decline. So it's very, very important to continue learning. Learn something new, like an instrument or listening to a podcast or take a class, read, or find games. They have games on your phone or in other places that help to really stimulate the brain. So, and also with continue learning, if you are someone that's listening and you do still work, check with your company. There are oftentimes, they have professional reimbursement stipends that you can actually take advantage of if it's there for you, if there's something that you really want to learn. So listen, let's keep learning out here. So I'm going to move into the next piece of this, which is about our physical well-being. It's all about movement, right? And I won't spend too much time on this one because we all know physical self-care is so important, but we have to remember to do it. Sometimes we sit too long, but physical self-care is about really caring for your body through movement, nutrition, and rest. Oh my God. Rest. I could use some rest, like an extra hour of rest each day. So prioritizing physical self-care can look like just exercising on a regular basis, doing something that you enjoy. It doesn't have to be, as women, of course, we know that strength training after 40 is very important. But if you want to dance or walk, whatever it is that you enjoy doing to move your body, I say take advantage of that. Also, make sure that you are nourishing your body with balanced meals and you're staying hydrated throughout the day. Also, another tip on like eating balanced meals and working out. What I have noticed is that this actually helps with perimenopause and menopausal symptoms. It kind of helps keep them at bay. Also, and I think this is one that, I put this in here, but it's definitely something that I have to really focus on a little bit more. And that's establishing a bedtime routine just to make sure that we get quality sleep, good quality sleep, because that is really good for our overall health as well. And also, lastly, don't forget to schedule your regular health checkups and screening so that you can monitor your physical well-being as well. So make sure that you are doing that. If you have not scheduled your appointments, those yearly appointments or bi-yearly appointments, make sure that you're doing that and you're staying on top of your health. Your health is so very important. So the next part that I would like to move into is spiritual self-care. And spiritual self-care involves connecting with a higher power, our inner selves, or also with the world around us. So, for example, my routine looks like I love to wake up in the morning, and my routine consists of prayer, reading my Bible, and exercise. And that's my routine. But you can also just take a few minutes each day to practice meditation or mindfulness. Spiritual self-care can also look like spending time in nature, like going for a walk in a park or practicing yoga outdoors. I remember living at a place and I used to see them doing yoga outside. And I don't know what it is about yoga, guys, but I remember this was years ago as well. I tried to take yoga. I used to try to take it on Monday nights at the gym. And I used to be in there just laughing at myself. I was in the back of the class laughing at myself. But I would also be so amazed at a lot of the people in the room because I'm like, oh my God, these people are really doing this. They're flexible and whatnot. And I was just back there. She said, downward dog. And the first time I heard that, I said, what? And so, what is that? And so I was just so tickled. And so I did it for quite a bit of time, not really understanding what the purpose of yoga was for. I just went. I was like, hey, let me go to do this. It'll help stretch my body out or make me flexible or whatever. But I used to just laugh at myself. I don't know why. I'm silly that way. But what I can tell you is that I've noticed that when I set my routine up the way that I have it, my day goes a lot better. When I start off incorporating my spiritual self-care first, before anything else, it gives me a peace of mind. It helps me make better decisions. And I also handle challenges that come up during the day with ease. Now, when I don't do this, and I allow this to go on like a day or two, things don't go so well. But I do notice that when I incorporate this as a daily practice, my life looks and feels so much better. So just so you know that this is another piece to add, meditation or mindfulness. There are so many good apps out here now that you can use. Just a few that I can think of off the top of my head. You have Insight Timer, which is a really good one, and it's also free. You have the Calm app. You have Headspace. There are so many apps out here to help you get started with that, if that is something that you would also like to do. But just know that in addition to physical movement, spiritual self-care also helps with keeping stress at bay. It really does. It helps to keep that stress low, I would say. Whew. So we move through quite a bit of stuff. We did today. We talked about a few things. We talked about mental and emotional well-being. We talked about physical well-being and moving our bodies. And we also talked about our spiritual well-being and how to care for ourselves spiritually. But there is one piece, one element to self-care that we often do not focus on, that we often forget about. And that is financial self-care. Y'all probably were like, what? I've been waiting for this and this. You talking about money? Yes, I am talking about money. I'm talking about finances. We often overlook this piece as a form of self-care, and it is very, very imperative to our self-care. As busy women, we juggle multiple responsibilities. And with that, it's easy to neglect our finances. But it's so imperative and crucial to cultivate a healthy relationship with money. And what financial self-care looks like is managing your money in a way that supports your long-term financial goals and security. It looks like creating a budget that aligns with your priorities and values, and also sticking to it. Sometimes it's hard to stick to a budget because, I'm talking to myself. It's hard out here. It also consists of prioritizing our savings and investing for the future. And if you are someone starting in the game of saving and investing later at this point in life, that means that you got to start aggressively saving so that you can prepare for retirement. We also have to, in this area, really educate ourselves on financial literacy. There are plenty of books out there, plenty of resources available. YouTube University is out there. And it's there for us to teach us what we need to know. There's a book that I purchased, and I plan to dive into more of soon, because we do have an episode coming up that is going to help us get good with our money, right? And so that we'll know what to do, how to set ourselves up for retirement, even if we're starting late. But this book is called Getting Good with Money, and it's by Tiffany, and I believe I'm saying the last name correctly, Ouchie, Tiffany Ouchie. I'll also post this in the description. But Tiffany goes by the name The Budgetnista on social media. Many of you have probably heard of her, but she really does a great job at, sharing her story and educating us on how to get good with our money. And I'm going to dive into this book, and I hope when we get to that episode, I hope that I can share some gems with you, and that that will really, kind of help not only myself, but you guys as well. But also, I want to talk about really making sure that we are prioritizing, or really not prioritizing, but practicing mindful spending. Well, that is a priority. Practice mindful spending. Also, avoid unnecessary debt that causes us stress and strain, because that can impact our financial health. And I've been guilty of, I don't know how many of you have, but I know I've been guilty of, just buying something like, "Ooh, I want that," and getting it, and not really asking myself, is this a need or a want? And that's something I've been learning lately, like focus on the needs over the wants. And if it's a want, how can you save for that? And I just had to take a breath, because this section here, it really it's one of those, it's a tough one, because this is one of those things that I'm also learning as well about finances. I'm really learning to be better at them. And again, I hope that when we get to this episode, that there is so much there that can help us, that can help not only myself, but you guys as well. Also, some other things that we really need to do, also beyond just being mindful of our spending and budgeting, is also overcoming a scarcity mindset. This is something that that many of us struggle with. And we have to overcome this so that we can set ourselves up for success. Everything starts with the mindset. Everything starts with the mindset. And for many of us, having a scarcity mindset is holding us back from having good financial health, from making sound financial decisions. But when we can overcome this and have ourselves set up for success in the best way, this will also keep down that stress, which is really good for our emotional and mental well-being. And that's how I tie that into that initial piece that we talked about. Because we know that if we financially stressed out, it's going to impact us, right? That impacts us mentally and emotionally. We're stressed, we're overwhelmed. But I do feel that having the right education, the right tools in place will help keep this as one of those other areas that we don't have to too much worry about. This is something like, hey, I'm good in this area, and our stress can, hey, we ain't got to worry about this over here, right? So as we wrap up this episode, I'd like to just reiterate the different aspects of self-care that we focused on today, and that is our mental and emotional well-being. We talked about how to acknowledge our feelings. We talked about how to set emotional boundaries, scheduling me time, and we talked about a few things when it comes to emotional and mental well-being. We talked about our physical well-being, which is all about movement and moving our bodies and making sure that we're prioritizing our health and making sure that we're nourishing our bodies with a balanced meal. We talked about our spiritual well-being and what that looks like. That can look like prayer, meditation. It can also look like journaling. I didn't mention that piece, but it can also look like journaling. It can look like yoga, taking walks, going for a hike, whatever that is to you, whatever it is that nourishes your body and your mindset. And our bonus was all about financial well-being and ensuring that we, one, eliminate the scarcity mindset, eliminate the limiting beliefs that we have with money, and really focusing on setting ourselves up for financial success, budgeting and prioritizing the needs over the wants. And I really hope that what you heard here today has been beneficial for you and that you took something from this. I really hope that you took something from this episode today. As we prepare to part ways, remember I mentioned that there is a challenge that I have. But as we prepare to part ways, I want to challenge you to take one step each day over the next 100 days. And I'm going to also take this challenge with you. I started it a few days ago. And you're getting this episode a few days after I started, but I started this episode a few days ago. And this is actually a challenge that I decided to participate in while riding my Peloton bike. And the instructor started a 100-day challenge to incorporate self-care each day. And what this can look like is you moving your body, you practicing mindfulness or meditation. It could look like you spending 2 minutes practicing deep breathing. It could look like you just taking a deep breath. Let me just pause. Let me take a deep breath. But as you go through this challenge, and I'm hoping that you do, I'm hoping that you're up for it, I encourage you to be compassionate with yourself during this time, because guess what? There might be some days that you missed the mark. But even if you missed the mark, how will you pivot? That's the question that you ask yourself. Self-care is the ultimate act of self-love that we can do for ourselves. And if you don't love yourself, how can we love anyone else? Thank you for tuning in and listening today. I love to hear how the challenge is going for you and how this episode resonated with you. Feel free to join the group on Facebook, Navigating Life After 40, and share your story. Also, follow me on all social media platforms with the same name, and or send me a DM with updates. You can also send me an email at Navigating Life After 40. That's the number 40 on the email and also on social media at gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, I hope you all be well. Bye now. That's a wrap for this episode of Navigating Life After 40. I hope you enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did. If you love what you're hearing, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. This helps me to reach more amazing women like yourself who are trying to navigate this amazing life. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep living your best life.